Hello, everybody, and welcome to Crash Zoom. I'm Sammie Purcell, Associate Editor with Rough Draft Atlanta, and I'm here with Aaron Strand, an indie filmmaker here in Atlanta. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Sammie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, just recovering from Christmas party fatigue, but
It's only December 17th.
16th.
16th,
Yeah.
16th. Sorry, we're recording on the 16th. Episode comes out on the 18th. It's only this December 16th. We've already got party fatigue?
Oh, yeah. I guess I'm popular.
God.
Just kidding. I don't know. I turned 30 and now parties make me tired.
Man, y'all pray for Sammie. Pray for Sammie. She's got
worse from here.
9 more days of Christmas. Yeah, not to mention 10 more years of her 30s. It's going to be rough.
It's going to be great. I can feel it. But if you've never joined us here on Crash Zoom before, welcome. This is a podcast where Aaron and I take a look at industry news, so film industry news at a bigger, higher level, and we try to boil that down and figure out why it matters to the local independent filmmaker. And we actually have some exciting news here. So for the longest time, we were on Aaron's podcast feed, so Behind the Slate. But now we are on our own feed. So Crash Zoom has its own feed, exciting stuff. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. And we also have some social feeds that we want you to follow. So you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Crash Zoom Podcast. So yay, it feels more official. It's like we're finally leaving the nest, you know?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we have jumped out and now we are learning if we can fly.
It's like the wild robot all over again. All right, so speaking of the wild robot, I have not been watching that, but we decided to kind of start with this little segment. We started it last week, and that segment, for lack of a better name, is called What Have You Been Watching? So Aaron, I'll let you start. What have you been watching?
Well, I had a big, family theatrical experience in that I took my daughter, who is a little over 2.5, to her very first movie in a theater, which I was very nervous about because I, as a kid, was terrified of the theater. Embarrassingly, it took me till I was 11 years old when I could go to a theater. Because it was just it was too overwhelming. I got scared. I got overwhelmed. Sure. I was a kid. I was a child. Quit judging me.
You were little Sammy Fableman in The Fablemans.
Yeah. Yes. Sure. Anyway, so I was afraid. I was okay, I'm gonna do this with my daughter, and she's probably gonna have to leave, and I'm preparing myself for that. We took her to see Moana 2, which she loves the first Moana, which she watched. Mm-hmm. It was the first movie that she fell in love with, on streaming. And she did awesome. She sat through the whole movie. She sat through all the trailers. She got a little scared a couple times, but she would just say, "I'm scared," and then would hold your hand and got through it. And otherwise, she loved it. She didn't want to leave the theater once it was over. She stayed through all the credits. She wanted to track all the graphics editors and all the PAs.
Wow.
And she really loved it, and that made me so happy. The only problem was that Moana 2, absolute trash. Hated it.
It's not very good.
What a garbage! What a garbage movie.
It was supposed to be a TV show. I think we talked about that, right?
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's also the biggest thing is just look, you can kind of I can kind of be a little snarky about Lin-Manuel, but God, do I miss him when he's gone.
Listen.
The music is so bad in Moana 2, and Lin-Manuel's...
That's the thing about Lin. We all make fun of him. He's #cringy, whatever. The man is talented, so everyone needs to
talented.
Remember that. First and foremost.
He's so talented. Yes, he's so talented. And God, did I miss him in this. And when they tried to do Lin-Manuel style raps with Maui, it was just please stop.
Not good.
Please stop. So anyway, yeah, Moana 2 sucked. But in other cinema news, I am, my wife and I, this is a ways away, but we're going to be going to Rome as our vacation. We get to take a vacation every couple of years. And so we've been saving up, and this is our vacation. We're going to Rome. So as I usually try to do, I watch a lot of movies about wherever it is that we're traveling. So I started that effort this weekend. I watched Roberto Rossellini's Rome Open City from 1945. And Pier Paolo Pasolini's Mamma Roma from, I think, 1962. Neither of which I'd seen before. Really enjoyed both. They're both very depressing Italian neo-realist films, but I gotta say, Mama Roma was exceptional, and I think I might be entering into my Pasolini era,
Okay,
because
nice.
like he was always a little bit too cryptic for me, like, and a little bit too, I don't know, poetic, and I didn't quite get the sort of neo-realism thing, but for some reason, watching Mama Roma, like, it really worked for me. I mean, like,
Okay.
I was like, I gasped at the final cut, and it left me
Hmm.
with one of those like real cinematic feelings of like, oh my god, I can't believe I just watched. Like, it felt like a borderline miracle. So I'm gonna run through. I mean, he only made like 10 films, right? So I'm gonna run
Yeah,
through them all over the next several months, and I'm really really looking forward to it.
that's awesome. Can I suggest just the pinnacle of Rome cinema for you? 2003's the Lizzie McGuire movie. Very important stuff.
You know what, Sammie? I'm gonna add it to the list.
Add it to the list. I think they actually did go to Rome, so they had that budget.
Okay. Oh, they actually like
I
shot
think
in
so.
Rome.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2003. How else were you gonna do it?
Not to bring down the cinema highfalutenness of this podcast, but I'm gonna bring it back up. I'm gonna bring it back up with what I've actually been watching lately. So I've been exercising something I like to call cozy December. So it's just like movies that make me feel really good, and that involves Christmas movies. Like we watched It's a Wonderful Life last week, like
So good.
classic. Watched The Apartment yesterday, which was
Oh,
wonderful. My
I
favorite.
love The Apartment.
So good. It's incredible. I've also been watching a lot of Friday Night Lights, the TV show, just like it's kind of
Oh,
my comfort show. And it's
yes, Clear
leaving.
Eyes.
Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't
Heart can't
Lose.
lose, of
Texas
course.
Forever. um, it's leaving Netflix on December 31st. So me and Ted Sarandos are going to have words. And then the biggest part, so cozy, like the coziest movies to me are MGM musicals, not just MGM, but any kind of like 50s, like old Hollywood musical. And I recently rewatched American in Paris for like, I don't know, the billionth time. And it's just absolutely wonderful. Gene Kelly has my heart and soul for forever. The ballet at the end is literally astonishing. It's incredible. So good.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
I actually have not seen that film before.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I love Gene Kelly. I do love
Yeah.
the 50s musicals.
Hmm.
It's just never, I've just like never, made the jump. So maybe now's the time.
Yeah. Gene Kelly, like the progression of, he didn't direct or he didn't direct an American in Paris, but it's so funny because and I can't figure out how to watch this movie,
Is
but
it
like,
Stanley Donen who directed it?
no, Vincente Minnelli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But like the progression of Gene Kelly, it's like he's like going on this upward swing until he gets to like Invitation to the Dance, which have you heard of that movie?
No.
So he directed it. It is like a complete like dance movie. Like there's no talking, no dialogue. I can't figure out how to watch it. I should try to find it on physical media somehow. That's like the last resort because I need a better television setup before I can afford to spend more money on DVDs. But I just like want to watch it so badly. It did not get very good reviews, and I don't think it's like it hasn't had, some kind of like cultural reevaluation or anything like that. But I'm just like so fascinated because he just kept being like, how can I fit these long ass ballets into otherwise like pretty standard, movie musicals from the 50s? And this is like the ultimate culmination of that. He's just like, what if we just danced for 2 hours? And that's it.
Crazy.
Okay, so moving on to some of our news items this week. So let's start with this one. It's called Cancel Culture, but it's not what you think it is. A slew of one season streamer cancellations ushers in a new normal. So this article comes from Lucas Manfredi at The Wrap. And in recent years, so essentially the article is just kind of covering the fact that in recent years, it's become increasingly common for television shows to get the axe after just one season. I'm sure we all have a television show that we love that this has happened to. Justice for My Lady Jane, you were taken from us way too soon. But according to this article from The Wrap, at least 19 streaming shows were canceled in 2024 after one season, after at least 25 were canceled in 2023. And it's happening to shows that, like, theoretically are doing well. Like, you know, I didn't watch The Acolyte. I'm not super into Star Wars like that, but like theoretically that show is like pretty popular among streamers, still gets the axe. So essentially this article kind of just goes into the nitty-gritty and talks to some experts about, you know, why this is sort of happening now. And TLDR, it's sort of a glut from both Netflix and streamers also struggling to keep up with Netflix. That caused so many shows to sort of get greenlit, you know, several years ago. And that's unsustainable from sort of a financial standpoint. And the streamers are also more worried about subscribers rather than actual streams. So if they think a cancellation won't affect that, it's easier for them to pull the plug. There's a lot more to get into here, but Aaron, I have a little birdie told me you have quite a lot to say about this, so I'll sort of let you take it away for now.
So there's a lot here. On the one hand, I do think that the premise of this article is a little bit misleading in the sense that this is some vast historical anomaly. I found myself on the Reddit thread r television, and Reddit user Kareth actually did some really great work. He basically made like a Python analysis algorithm to analyze canceled shows from 1950 to 2020. And while there's a high degree of variance in the number of cancellations per year, basically 30 to 50% of all shows were canceled from 1950 to 2020. And he ran another Python script to calculate the average season or longevity of these shows and showed that longevity really has hovered around 2 seasons throughout the last 75 years of televised programming. So, in a historical sense, I don't think that this is that unusual. But it does bring into relief a lot of so while on the one hand it is very similar to the historical legacy of linear television, I think on the other hand this brings into relief a lot of differences about the streaming environment versus the linear environment. And I really think that this is like the conversation, because I think that almost everything we talk about on the show happens within the context of this major shift to streaming. And what is that shift? Why is our relationship to motion images, why is the business around motion images so different on streaming than on linear television? And why do these cancellations, why do these shows even like feel different, both on a consumer level and on a production level? The first major difference from linear television into streaming services is in the definition of the name, in that these are service companies masquerading as product companies. Okay, so this is a major shift from the former way that television worked, which is that you had a symbiotic relationship between product companies, the studios that were developing products, television shows that people paid for and watched, and the service companies like Charter, Spectrum, Comcast, DirecTV, who were focused on maintaining these service networks that had to deliver the content to people. They had to maintain them through making sure they were up and running, and they got to focus on on growing the subscriber base, and most importantly, mitigating churn, which the cable bundle was actually very, very good at because it offered so many things to consumers, and the things that people really, really wanted were able to subsidize the things that people didn't want so much, but like we're able to sustain based on the carriage fees brought over from other more desirable things. So the cable bundle, listen, like I am a cable bundle evangelist because the cable bundle was honestly, it was the greatest invention in the history of entertainment. It bankrolled Hollywood for decades. Everyone made so much money, and more than anything, it worked very effectively. Now, Netflix comes along and looks at this and says, well, this is so inefficient. Why would you have a services company and an entertainment company? We live in the age of the internet. Why don't we combine services and entertainment into one entity. And while everyone can look at this and say, well, this is really, really efficient, it ultimately leads to a process that beloved blogger and sci-fi writer Cory Doctorow refers to as enshittification. And if you're not familiar with the term enshittification, it's basically that internet companies go through a life cycle. They offer a lot of great products